So why do I say the things I say and do the things I do? Why is it that I believe so implicitly in wizardry and druidry and stuff like this? Why is it that I say that wizardry of mind, is about timing and time? Why, other than these obvious lovely things that the greats like Einstein say about imagination, you already know, don't you, that any of the greats in science will always maintain the greatness of imagination beyond all things, don't you? And that's because they are such great names in science. Great names in any field wouldn't diss anything. Dissing anything shows small and petty-mindedness. So why is it that I believe in psychic powers, the powers of the mind, the powers of the unconscious mind, hypnosis, the power of mind over matter, the power of mind over body, and mind in health? Why is it that I believe in magic and wizardry, which are two different things? Why is it that I believe in mental wizardry? And why is it that I say that wizardry is about timing and time? Started with a conversation in my head this morning, during the night, during my dreams. I often have these conversations, you know. I'm sure you all do, don't you? Now you've got the courage to admit it. You know, conversations in which I have inspirations that are good for healing. It started with a conversation I remember having with my missus yesterday. She'd had a look at my foot because I've been suffering with this gout for the past several weeks. You know, I've been pushing myself through it as much as I can, and that's something else the missus has a go at me for aplenty, is pushing myself when I shouldn't be. That's okay to some degree with the present situation and all the rest of it, but what do you do when you need to work to pay the bills and pay your mortgage and all that kind of stuff? So it may well be timely that I'm going through this gout, this lesson during this time of lockdown. This supposed lesson, according to some of the great healers, this lesson of our progress versus our resistance, our financial standing and worldly success in this world versus what? The gutter, potential bankruptcy, echoes of neglect we've felt in a past life, of lack of a proper support, whatever the lessons are. So the missus was looking at this thing on the top of my right foot that looks like a sore. The missus said to me, so we need to be looking at some way of getting your uric acid in your blood down. I said that, sure, yeah, I've started to change certain things about my diet. I've started to have breakfasts every day, muesli, bran flakes, with berries, fruit, banana, milk, because milk was one of the things that was said to be good for bringing one's blood acid down, the uric acid in one's blood down, calcium. And when you're talking about health issues and stuff like this, plenty of people do say, don't they, that breakfast is the main meal of the day. So after it's probably several years now of not drinking milk, other than a small amount in my coffee, I've now started drinking a little more milk. Cherries are another good thing for gout as well, aren't they? You know, all the websites and the experts online talk about cherries, all berries, but especially cherries. I tend to eat a lot of cherries anyway. I love cherries. They're my favourite fruit. I did say that as a person, I don't think I'm that unwell or unhealthy or unfit anyway. I'm a little fatter than I should be, but I'm not grossly, ginormously gigantic. I've got a belly, but then who at 50 years old hasn't? It's a rare person that's actually that fit, you know, and even then they have to have devoted certain time and exercise towards being that fit. And I've even heard that having a six-pack is actually not healthy. I've heard that the natural round belly, that if you look at it, a lot of the tribal members in the world actually have that round belly as well. And you could argue that a lot of tribal members are healthier than westernized man, if you like. But then you could also argue the other way, I suppose. You could say that, tribal people only live to an age of, say, 40 years old or 50 years old. What's the real reality here? In our discussion, I did say to the missus that I don't smoke. I very, very rarely drink alcohol. We don't have that much of an unhealthy diet in that, I don't have fatty foods every single day. And even when we do have fatty foods, chips or whatever, we cook them in what we've learned are healthy fats. We don't choose all of our foods as covered in breadcrumbs. And even when the kiddies have the likes of chicken nuggets or fish, if they have breadcrumbs on that, I often choose not to eat those. Baked beans are probably my thing. I loved baked beans as a kiddie, and I still do. I do realise that they're full of sugar, and maybe for that reason that could be bringing out the worst in them. In what I've said, I'm in no way saying that I'm spick and span, top-notch healthy. I'm obviously not. If I can suffer with excruciating, at times, gout for 7 or 8 weeks, something has been amiss until now. So what? What am I thinking? What am I up to? What's my intention? What am I going to do about this? Well, I've been telling you about the conversation that I had with the missus and the conversation that ensued in my mind overnight, didn't I? And I also did mention that I'd been looking at the healers' ideas of what gout could be about, didn't I? So what am I going to do about gout for me and you? Okay, here we go then. This is why I asked earlier why it is that I say the things I say, do the things I do, make the point that wizardry, as opposed to magic, wizardry, mental wizardry, the faculty of being quick-witted, like somebody like Derren Brown, for instance. He's a wizard. He's not a magician. He's not necessarily wise as such, but he is a wizard. He's a wizard because he has this sharp mental faculty of mentalism. So I was asking the question, why do I say the things I say? Why do I believe the things I believe? Why do I do the things I do? Why do I focus on things like psychic powers, mind power, mind over matter, mind over body, mind in health, hypnosis, and wizardry, and magic, but wizardry specifically? Well, to answer that verbally, I believe in wizardry and magic as being two different things. And I believe in wizardry because a lot about spiritualism is cold reading, is really mental acuity, is really sensory acuity, is really mentalism. A lot about magic and being able to create miracles in life in general, and even miracles in people's health issues and healing, are about timing, really being in the right place at the right time to claim something, being in the right place at the right time to steer a conversation, an energy, to steer an intention, an outcome, a potential, possibility, propensity. And when you think in these ways, as I do, and as healers do, and as wizards do, you work in these ways. Those who think about building often end up building. Those who think about plumbers and plumbing often end up doing plumbing. Those who think about cars often end up being involved with cars somehow. Those who focus on money seem to be involved with money. Those who think about wizardry, magic, healing, health, etc., higher psychologies, often end up being somehow involved with higher psychology, such as magic, healing, wizardry, psychology. Makes sense, does it not? So I've answered that question of why it is I say the things I say, why specifically do I focus on wizardry, and I separate wizardry from magic, and why it is that I so often say that wizardry is about time and timing. I've answered that, have I not? In one aspect at least. So another aspect in why I so respect the likes of wizardry and druidism and magic and spiritual art like healing, for example, is because anything that's of value to you that you can do, I developed this saying, and I believe it, that the only true way to fully achieve anything, as in be able to focus on it for any length of time and to actually carry it out, is to do so magically. I'll explain what I mean. If you look at achieving something good in the world, it means you've got to be a leader. It means you've got to lead by example. It means you've got to take a stance about whatever it is that you're doing. The moment you formulate an opinion, the moment you make your opinion known, the moment you take your stance on whatever it is you're taking your stance on, is the moment that other people raise their objections. Now, if you're looking at flawlessness, flawless perfection, if you're looking at achieving whatever it is you want to achieve superlatively, other people's objections are going to throw you. So the best way to achieve the things you want to achieve is to lay the foundations for them in the invisible realm. That is, magically, with wizardry. On another level, if you're looking at influencing people, individuals, then one of the things that would be handy to learn is a thing that in some books, and when I find it I'll report that again, is a thing called subjective communication. Subjective communication has been described as you, in your mind's eye, communicating with another person about the subject that you want to communicate about. As if they are in the same room as you, you're communicating through your mind, through your higher mind, with their higher mind. Obviously, in the book that I read, there were a lot more words used than that to describe what subjective communication is. But those of you in the know, those of you that are big business management types, will know exactly what I'm talking about. You practice your conversation with the higher mind of the other person and not even have that conversation with them. And you will find that there will be agreement about that subject from that person before you even get there. In other words, you can astrally call a person's astral body to you, communicate telepathically with that person's astral body and astral mind, and influence that person from afar without ever having said verbally anything to them, without ever having been anywhere near that person, without them ever having even met you. Now, this is the realm of remote viewers, psychic spies, secret organizations, and the likes. Make no mistakes about that. This is why I say that wizardry is about timing and time. This is partly why I say the things I say, and I do the things I do, and I believe in the things I believe in, and I focus on utilizing psychic awareness and wizardry and magic to achieve certain outcomes, because I can focus on my certain outcomes without having to cross other people's resistances. So now I've answered the question of why do I say the things I say and do the things I do? Why do I believe in wizardry as opposed to magic, and magic as opposed to wizardry, and psychic powers, and hypnosis, and healing from yet another angle and aspect? And don't worry, we're going to get to it, yeah? This is just by way of an introduction that I'm explaining these things. I'm only explaining why it is that I say the things I say and do the things I do and believe in what I believe in and focus on wizardry as opposed to magic, and magic as well, and druidry and psychic powers and hypnosis and healing. I only explain these things by way of an introduction into the healing that I'm about to do. Because despite what so many people say about the fluff, leave the fluff behind and get on with the actual thing, I think a lot of people tell you to leave the fluff behind, leave the fluff out, in order to flummox you. In order to flummox you. I think the fluff, the introductions, the laying of the groundwork first, the painting of a picture, the telling of a story, is actually needed for a person to get the raw magic. So I've been telling you a story, I've been laying the foundations, I've given you some history, I've given you some reason, I've given you some logic. So what now? What now, do I hear you ask? Well, what now is, I'm going to involve you in some magical healing. But before I do, I'm going to explain something about sigils. Why do I utilize sigils in magic and healing. Okay, here's something. Sigils are made of, or can be made of, many different languages. There are umpteen supposed magical languages in the world. Many different magical languages in many different languages, many different countries, from the Western esoteric traditions to Egypt, to Iraq, to Scunthorpe, to Barmouth, to the south of England, to the North Pole and the South Pole, Australia, the Philippines, you name it. Everywhere you go on this planet, there are umpteen magical languages to be found. And for those people who are magical, there are new magical languages being created all the time. Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings books and movies, made up his own languages, and they do exist in real life as languages. Some of those languages have been known as proto-languages. I've heard it said that some of the proto-languages are things like Hawaiian. Hawaiian languages being proto-languages because they use a lot of vowels. Not that that is what determines what a proto-language is, but they use proto-sounds supposedly made by certain peoples from certain places for hundreds of thousands of years. Like this lends some kind of efficacy or power or believability to a language. I don't think that's necessarily so. I think that even modern languages, modern words that are made up, like there's a lot of words that are made up specifically for communicating on Messenger, on YouTube and Facebook, for instance, that are just as valid as any of the old world or proto-languages out there. Languages have forever been and will forever be created to do what they do. With sigils, you can, in one symbol, install through the eyeballs into the brain and mind an idea that contains 10, 100, 1,000 communications, ideas, ideals, embedded commands, suggestions, directions, directives. You can do all of that in one sigil. Now, just to clarify once again that you cannot tell somebody to go out and commit mass murder with one sigil. It's just like the famous line in Hypnosis and Hypnotherapy. You can't hypnotize somebody to go out and do something that's against their morality or will using one image, one suggestion, or 1,000 images or suggestions. You cannot force somebody against their will to go out and do something that's against their morality, against their mindset, against their will, against their tendencies or propensities. You can't do that. That's what the standard advice is anyway. Your CIA and secret agency operatives and men in black might say otherwise, but that's the standard line. Did you ever see the movie that became a series called Max Headroom? Max Headroom started with a scene that involved a thing that's called blipverts. And that's something that's stuck in my mind forever. And that's because of the mass interest in subliminals. Yes, the big companies utilize subliminals, and if you watch any ordinary everyday TV, those of you who see it will understand that we are constantly being mass fed with subliminals in order to ensure that we follow what we're meant to be following. Okay, so we've got a world we need to navigate. Bills to pay, time to fill, lives to create, children to raise, and education to follow. If you're good at making sigils and practicing sigil magic techniques, you can create programs where you are firing sigils at 1,000 miles an hour, or I should say 1,000 times per minute, flashing. There are apps you can download directly onto your phone or your computer that you can use to even subliminally flash English words or Irish words, Scottish, Welsh, Russian, words in whatever your language is, on screen at any size, full screen size or tiny, up in the corner, any corner, down below, whatever, also at 1,000 RPM. Think about that. What does that mean? How much power would it give you if you could mix subliminally flashing sigils along with subliminally flashing words in your own language, along with the use of mind programming arts like hypnosis, NLP, sensory overwhelm, Gestalt practices. You know, the world is endless with these techniques. How much power do you think this could give you? So I've said a few things. I've made a few points. Let's get on with it. Crumble, crumble. Noise. Let's have a look at this. That's the mirror there. That's still recording. Okay. I'm standing in front of my mirror. This is to do mirror work. One issue with creating visual magic using sigils, colour, words, colour circles, energy circles, symbology, talisman, etc., is that you've got to know what you want to say. Some people say you've got to say the right phrases. You've got to say them in the right way. Okay? It's all too easy to give yourself embedded commands, embedded suggestions, etc., that can undo the very thing you're trying to do. Okay? It's all too easy to outwit yourself. It's all too easy to undo yourself. So my conversation went from the conversation that I had during the night, for me, went from coming out with conversations that contained the right types of script, scriptology, wordology, wording, neuro-linguistic programming, etc., to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve, which were varied. I mean, I went from the specific of gout, then I panned out to more general health, the things that we want to change about our bodies, and then I went further out. I found myself conversing with my inner wizard about the potential that the secret elite government special departments of the world maybe do want to wipe out a percentage of humans on this planet, and are planning to do so, and what I would do in response to this, what I am actually now beginning to do in response to this. Okay? So it went to this. It went to mirror magic. And in my mind, at some point this morning, as I was in that liminal state between sleeping and waking, I found myself standing here as I am just now, in front of my mirror and practicing mirror magic. Now, I'm going to nudge that if I move this hand. This is why I'm standing here with this hand quite still. Now, this was my conversation. I went along the lines of, I started to open my mouth to say something, and it was along the lines of, and as I opened my mouth to say whatever it was I was going to say then, I realized that even saying whatever words I was going to say is too long, takes too long. So what I did in my conversation this morning, halfway between sleeping and waking, was I gave you, i.e. me in the mirror, blessing. I give you blessing. I now, standing here right now, give you blessing, and I allow myself to feel that blessing, an immediate response to that blessing that I just had right that very second, the moment after I gave that very blessing, that 10, 15, 20 seconds ago, was this ringing that I've had in my left ear now for 14 months. Stopped ringing for about half a second, and then it started ringing again because I came back to reality, whatever reality is. So this is what I've noticed. This is what I've noticed, Jace. I've noticed that the times that you have done your stomping wizardry, when you've done your ranting wizardry, when you've ranted and wizarded your stuff, yes, it's worked. And yes, we got the wife's short
paragraph and signature that my wizardry, upon this ringing in my ears and upon my hip issue, my groin pull, did work. But it worked, if I'm going to be real honest and blunt about it, temporarily. The pain did return the next day. Okay? This works. When I gave myself that blessing a moment ago, yes, it did work temporarily for half a second, but the squeaking came back on immediately. So it tells me that wizardry, the wizardry that I practice, does work, but it says that it works while I'm doing the wizardry, while I'm pushing that wizardry, while I'm blessing that wizardry out, while I'm pushing, forcing, blessing, blasting that wizardry out, at, into whatever I'm pushing that wizardry into. Because that wizardry certainly is a force. It certainly is a fire. Yes, it is. So, one of the things that I said in humorous discussion with the missus is that, yes, I need to learn how to make that wizardry work from the moment I've sent it out of my mouth or out of my mind or out of my fingers or whatever, and to work constantly forevermore. Okay? So I'm blessing you now, Jace, in front of the mirror. I'm blessing you. I'm blessing me. I'm blessing you. I'm blessing me. This is what this is. I'm blessing us. I love you. I love you. I obviously do love you because I want the best for you, because I want you to learn and grow, because I want you to develop whatever magical healing abilities you can ever grasp, channel, develop, grow, push, mimic, propagate, flow, channel, whatever amazing, healing, magical abilities you can work. I want you to be able to do that massively, and I want that to have immediate effect on whoever, on you, and on whoever you use that on, from the moment it starts, which is immediately you do it, and for the rest of that person's life, or for the rest of your life, if you so choose. I bless that into you now. I bless that into you now. I love you. I bless that into you now. When I stood here in my dream state this morning and opened my mouth, in the dream state I just did this, something like that. It wasn't quite sound, it was ah, 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 ah. And in that what's that, 3/4 of a second, in that three quarters of a second, without having to even specify the exact specific words, without having to use any words of description or words to make anything happen, I gave myself in the mirror, the me in the mirror, I gave that me in the mirror a total healing from head to foot, which blessed, loved, and healed and cured, let's make no bones about it, cured everything that I wanted cured, and more, that took out every influence from every body, from every influencing factor and influencing agency, everything from those bodies and agencies, took it out, gave me back total freedom from this ringing in my ears, from this groin strain, from the gout I have in my right foot, had until now in my right foot. That's what I did in this morning's dream state wizardry. That's what I'm doing again now. Certain healing modalities, complementary therapies take so long. They take so much time. I've been saying that sigil magic is something that can be blip-verted, subliminally thrashed and flashed into your eyes, thus brain, thus mind, thus physiology, thus personal magic, your own personal real life. I blessed that and loved that into you, me, us this morning. I believe that has as potent a power for the specifics and for the general as any healing modality, complementary therapy, magic spell, sigils, symbols, or languages can and do have. So thank you. Thank you. I am also asking, even though I've blessed, even though I've given, I am asking for you, Jason von Breven, to take all of this blessing, loving wizardry and utilize it in its fullest, most powerful extensions and wipe out this ringing in the ears, this groin strain, and this gout. Wipe it out. Wipe it out. Return to full fitness, that you can run up trees, that you can do ninja acrobatics, that you can do your rolling, your gamboling, your cartwheels, your parkour. You've got children to raise. You've got children to play with. They both want to fight. They're both climbers. They both want to do ninja stuff and wizardry. That's a total blessing. They're not bored. They want what you've got. Bring it on. Bring it out. Bring it out. Quicker. 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 Come on. Bring that fire out and heal you. change your body to looking super fit. Now I'm also going to demonstrate something else here. And I believe that this is a technique. I believe that this can be and is a very powerful technique of body transformation. And I believe that there's not a lot of people who've cottoned on to this. And I believe that there's a lot of people who, as a result of my this very video I'm creating here, are about to cotton onto it and will start using it. I also reckon that there's a lot of people that are not going to give me much credit for it, but I reckon that a lot of people are going to start utilizing this. Emil Coué and Maxwell Maltz both have said in no uncertain terms that body transformation is about self-image, specifically about self-image. They wrote whole books on subjects to do with self-image. Now, I'm going to demonstrate something about changing body type due to self-image. And that's this. Okay, so look at my belly from the side. You can see that I'm overweight. I'm a little embarrassed about the fact that it's so big. Yeah, I'd like to have a fit looking bod. Sure I would. What man wouldn't? However, I reckon that half the battle, if not 95% of the battle, when trying to change this, is the way that we hold ourselves. I've already said that Emil Coué and Maxwell Maltz, among many others, said that most of personal change is about self-image. I reckon that if we did this enough, and held ourselves in and programmed that as our self-image, I reckon that over time this would tighten up. If we just did this enough, held ourselves in this way. Now I don't mean hours a day. I'm talking about as regularly as you can for a few seconds. And click it. Mentally photograph it. Do that. Engage those muscles. Engage those muscles. Yes, there's something about it that is going to raise your blood pressure slightly. I think that's going to happen temporarily for an amount of time. But I reckon that over time you do this enough, and I reckon that that's going to affect your posture to such a point that this is going to become desired by your body mind, and this will become a new normal for any person if they did this enough. Yeah, you can make yourself sore. I can feel it in my back, and if I held myself there for hours and hours and hours, and yeah, I'd end up probably pooping myself, because I can feel the whole strain of that pushing against my back. I can feel it in my shoulder blades. I can feel it in my lower back. I can feel it in my here. I can feel it in my butt. I can feel it in my hip joint. I reckon that this would make a big difference in lots of ways, and it would end up looking quite good instead of just letting it all hang forwards and hang out. Now, I reckon I've stumbled onto a secret there that a lot of people know, but a lot of people don't televise. A lot of people don't make public that they know. But I reckon that is one of the secrets of losing weight. There, I've said it. That's one of the secrets of shaping your bod. Okay? I think I've said enough. I think I've made my point. Blessings. You are amazing. You are beautiful as you are. You are amazing and beautiful as you are. As you improve and get better and get even more amazing and beautiful, you will improve and get even more amazing and beautiful at everything you do. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you